Mrs. A, created by Ravi. Chapter 4. Annabelle. Annabelle met Mataji when she was just 18 years of age. She came to India a very disturbed and broken girl who needed fixing. Annabelle was rich, but money was one of her major problems. She had used money in all the wrong ways and to get all the wrong answers to her problems. She was into drug abuse, bad relationships, bad company, everything you could associate with the word bad. When so much bad surrounds your life, you become a bad person, and so did Annabelle. Some people like being bad, but most find it troublesome and painful. When bad turns to rotten, the time has come for you to review your life and make amends as quickly as you can. When you realize you need to change your life, your search for change begins. How does one change from rotten to good? The options before Annabelle were few, and they confused her. She needed advice and help, and it was not forthcoming. Her parents had long since given up on her, and they had all but abandoned her to her fate. But they kept funding her. Her friends were all so wasted themselves and far too gone to be of any help to her. The church was not an option which she considered useful, for she had long lost her faith in Jesus Christ and Christianity. Annabelle was blundering from one pillar to another post when she ran into a group of Swedish travelers who were planning to visit India. She had heard about India as the spiritual capital of the world, where gods and godmen were found in plenty. The Beatles had visited India and found peace and solace. Was this place for her to go? Was this a symbol or a sign from God, whoever it was, for her to see and heed? Was this her fix? She took her chances and landed in Delhi with her fellow travelers. Annabelle did not know where to begin her search or how. There was no manual, no do-it-yourself videos, and nobody that she knew who could guide her. She followed the trail with her fellow travelers going to Jaipur, Agra, Jaisalmer, and Jodhpur. She saw the beauty of Taj Mahal, the beautiful palaces and forts in Jaipur, the sand dunes in Jaisalmer, and many other beautiful places before she gave up and stayed back in Delhi when her friend travelers moved on to the Himalayas. Why did she not go there to the Himalayas? There were places there which could have provided her with what she was searching for. The lobby manager at the hotel where Annabelle stayed had been watching the girl come and go. When her friends from Sweden left for Haridwar and she stayed back, it intrigued him. The girl seemed troubled, and it seemed to him that she was searching for something or someone. What, he could not figure out. When she approached him one day with a smile and asked him where she can find godmen in Delhi, he could not understand what she wanted. He told her about Mataji and how powerful she was. He himself was her disciple, and he vouched for her authenticity. He even offered to take Annabelle to meet Mataji. Annabelle broke down when she first met Mataji, and she could not understand why this happened. Mataji smiled and put her hand on Annabelle's head, and suddenly her head exploded. Even as you are reading this about Annabelle, have you ever wondered why is it that we seem to connect instantaneously with some? I could understand Annabelle, for I remember well my first visit to Swamiji's ashram and my first meeting with him. These things happen unexpectedly, and when they happen, they catch you off your guard. That is precisely why we call it love at first sight. The connection blindsides you. My first meeting with Swamiji was remarkable. I did not break down like Annabel because I was never in her frame of mind, nor was I searching for a guru. It was my wife Sita who recommended Swamiji, and she told me that he was something different. So I went to the ashram, not the one at Mehroli, because Swamiji had already parted ways with Mataji. He had set up his own small ashram at Ghaziabad at the outskirts of the city. I was expecting to meet a saffron-robed, sweet-talking sannyasi who would smile at me and wish me good luck. He was saffron-robed and sweet-talking, yes, but he did not wish me luck or bless me. Instead, he started talking about journalism and the cult of the paparazzi. He spoke of the state of the nation, the economic development, and the corruption in the country, which, according to him, was cancerous. He engaged me in a debate on how more and more youth should take responsibilities by taking politics seriously and becoming administrators. During the 45 minutes I was with him, he never spoke of God or religion or spiritualism. Neither did he ask me if I had any problems that required him to provide a solution. I walked away feeling pleased and surprised. Pleasure because he was a refreshing change from other spiritual gurus I had heard about. Surprise because he knew so much and could express himself so freely. On top of all this, there was another undefined feeling of connectedness. I knew then that this will not be my last visit to Swamiji. Annabel told me how she felt something in her head when Mataji touched her and how she had burst out with her own sordid tale to the Guru. Mataji did not console her. Instead, she told Annabel that bad karma was because of her earlier lives, which had somehow spilt into her present life. Annabel could not understand the concept of past lives, as even the present one was a puzzle for her. Mataji asked her to meditate for 30 minutes without focusing on anything. She should just sit silently and try not to chase her random thoughts. Thoughts, Mataji said, were strong energy fields and could derail the functioning of the brain. To avoid being derailed, one needs to practice the art of mindfulness by learning to ignore thoughts, however important they may appear. You have to get yourself in a thoughtless state, if that was possible. Annabel found this exercise to be impossible at first. How does one live without thoughts? She discovered to her utter dismay that thoughts were independent of her and that she had no control over them. She told me that the more she fought with her thoughts, the stronger they would become. She would chase away one thought from her mind only to find another random thought appearing from somewhere. Some thoughts, she told me, were weak and would disappear at her will, but some were so strong that they would suck her into their vortex. She did finally succeed in thought management, as she calls it, by discovering a very simple truth. Instead of fighting with thoughts or trying to chase them away, one should learn to ignore them, just as you will ignore a snide remark of a person who did not matter to you. The moment you ignore thoughts, they get provoked and they try their best to gain your attention. Finally, they give up and go away. This was a remarkable process that I was hearing from Annabel. Swamiji used to tell something similar to me when he was in a contemplative mood. He surely had learned this from Mataji, but had somewhat improvised on it. He said that we have to slay our thoughts ruthlessly. He told me that once we aggressively contain our thoughts, they fear you and stop troubling you. This was an active practice as opposed to Mataji's passive practice. Annabel decided that she would come to Mataji again and left for Sweden after a week at the ashram. She kept returning and staying for longer periods. She knew all about Echen because Echen came to Mataji after Annabel had already become her disciple. She had scant respect for Echen and refused to address him as Swamiji. Her relationship with Echen had been acrimonious. It surprised her that Mataji chose Echen from amongst the thousands who were devoted to her. What Mataji saw in Echen was not visible or clear to Annabel. Neither did she bother much about it initially. It was when Echen began his own satsangs that Annabel rushed to Mataji to complain. Mataji listened but would not act. Things started going bad for Mataji as Echen's aspirations started touching the sky. Mataji would tell Annabel that she knew that Echen had something in him and both of their destinies were linked, but she did not foresee what Echen would do to her. Mataji, Annabel told me, was a simple person with great and God-gifted spiritual powers. Ask her, and she would deny having such powers or even being aware of what those powers were. She was so humble and unassuming that she never claimed publicly or in private that she could work miracles. This was true because whatever she did to people was not a miracle for her. It was only her disciples who term everything she did as a miracle and make fancy stories about her powers. Spending time with Mataji helped Annabel to understand her better than many. Annabel said that Mataji was a vessel of God filled with strange energies that no one could comprehend. But Mataji did not gain these energies consciously. They were already inside her. She did not even know until the time in the refugee camp in Delhi when some person discovered it for her. Mataji was happy that her powers could help someone, but had no aspiration to become a cult head. That happened on its own, helped by public perception and personal experiences of hundreds of thousands of devotees. Echen, she told me, was different. Mataji saw some power in him, something about which he too was unaware. However, thanks to Mataji, he could discover his own power, but unlike Mataji, he did not have the humility. Instead, he gave in to his aspirations and lived up to the expectations of people who came to him. When his disciples told him that he was God, he believed them and started playing God. When his disciples put him above Mataji and duped him into believing that he had powers better than Mataji, he believed it. To his credit, he never spoke ill of Mataji or lose respect for her. He gently pushed her aside to take a dominant position, and Mataji did nothing to stop him, for she knew that forces beyond her, beyond Echen, were acting. Annabel was by Mataji's side when she passed. She was not ill, nor did she carry any disease. She just kind of faded away to another place. Annabel would ask her about the ashram and its future, and Mataji would tell her not to worry about these things. They would resolve of their own accord. Annabel told me that she did not have any respect for Echen, but neither was she angry at what he had done to Mataji. If these things are destined, there was no point in getting upset or angry about them. When Echen left the ashram to create one on his own, Mataji blessed him and wished him good luck. Such a noble soul was Mataji. Most of her disciples left her for HN, thinking that she had lost her powers. She did nothing to stop them, but a few hundred remained now, and it was they who were keeping Mataji alive. Annabel was one of them. End of chapter 4. Next week, chapter 5. The case gets a twist. Till then, goodbye. Thank you for listening and keep listening.